At 94, Clint Eastwood reveals who he doesn't want at his funeral. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31st, 1930, in San Francisco, California, raised during the Great Depression. His early years were marked by financial hardship and frequent moves, as his father worked various jobs across the West Coast. Despite the instability, Eastwood developed a strong sense of independence and resilience, traits that would later define both his screen persona and real-life character. He grew up in a modest, working-class environment, often described as quiet and serious, even as a child. After high school, Eastwood worked odd jobs, including lifeguard and lumberjack, before being drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. It was during this time that he began to consider acting as a possible path, eventually landing his first film roles in the 1950s. These humble beginnings helped shape the stoic, rugged individualism that Eastwood would famously portray in westerns and action films. Long before the fame and accolades, he was just a kid from a struggling family, navigating hard times with grit and determination. From bit parts to big break, Clint Eastwood's humble start in Hollywood. Clint Eastwood's journey into acting began almost by accident. After returning from military service in the early 1950s, he was encouraged by friends to audition for film roles, tall, ruggedly handsome, and naturally reserved. Eastwood had a presence that stood out, even if his acting chops were still developing. His earliest roles were small and often uncredited, background characters, soldiers, or cowboys with only a few lines. But he kept going, determined to learn and grow. In 1955, he landed a contract with Universal Pictures, which gave him consistent work in B-movies. Still, it wasn't until 1959 that Eastwood got his first real break, cast as Rowdy Yates in the TV Western Rawhide. He quickly became a household name. The show ran for 8 seasons, and Eastwood's character evolved from youthful sidekick to leading man, showcasing his signature stoicism and intensity. Though television brought him fame, Eastwood never stopped aiming higher. He used his time on Rawhide to observe directors, study scripts, and learn the craft from behind the scenes, preparing for something bigger. His patience and persistence would soon pay off in ways no one, not even Eastwood himself, could have imagined. The Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood's breakthrough into stardom. Clint Eastwood's real breakthrough came not in Hollywood, but in Europe. After Rawhide ended, Eastwood took a bold chance by accepting a role in an Italian Western, a genre not taken seriously in the U.S. at the time. The film was A Fistful of Dollars, 1964, directed by a then-unknown Sergio Leone, playing the mysterious, silent anti-hero, later dubbed the Man with No Name. Eastwood redefined what a cowboy could be: ruthless, cool, and morally ambiguous. The film became a massive success in Europe, leading to 2 sequels, For a Few Dollars More, 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966. Known collectively as the Dollars Trilogy, these films turned Eastwood into an international star. His steely gaze, minimal dialogue, and iconic poncho became legendary. Hollywood couldn't ignore him anymore. When Eastwood returned to the U.S., he was no longer a television actor. He was a bankable movie star. The success of the spaghetti westerns opened doors, and soon he was cast in major films like Hang 'em High and Coogan's Bluff. But beyond just acting, Eastwood began to realize he had a vision for storytelling. This realization would eventually lead him to direct and change the course of his career forever. The enduring achievements of Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood's career is a testament to longevity, versatility, and relentless creativity. From the rugged cowboy of the spaghetti westerns to a multi-award-winning director and producer. Eastwood has achieved what few in Hollywood ever do, lasting relevance across generations. As an actor, Eastwood cemented his place with iconic roles in Dirty Harry, the outlaw Josie Wales, Unforgiven, and Gran Torino. His portrayal of tough, morally complex characters became his signature, influencing an entire generation of filmmakers and actors. But it's his directorial work that elevated him into a different league. Unforgiven, 1992, earned him 2 Oscars, Best Director and Best Picture, and redefined the Western genre. Later films like Million Dollar Baby, 2004, and Mystic River, 2003, proved his ability to handle deeply emotional and socially conscious stories, winning more Academy Awards and critical acclaim. Eastwood also received the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award, France's Légion d'honneur, and the American Film Institute's Life Achievement Award. His ability to switch between genres, action, drama, war, biopic, while maintaining a distinct style speaks volumes of his craftsmanship. Even in his 90s, Eastwood continues to create, proving that passion and purpose do not age. His legacy isn't just about the roles he played or the films he directed. It's about the resilience and artistry that define a true Hollywood legend. Clint Eastwood as mayor, musician, and maverick entrepreneur. Clint Eastwood is more than a Hollywood icon. He's a man of many lives. While most know him as the stoic cowboy or brilliant director, Eastwood's journey extends far beyond the film industry. In 1986, he stunned the public by running for mayor of Carmel by the Sea, California, a town famous for its resistance to change and love of tradition. He won in a landslide and served a 2-year term, where he focused on improving community infrastructure and famously overturned an ordinance that banned selling ice cream cones on the street. But politics wasn't his only venture. Eastwood is also an accomplished jazz pianist and music lover. He composed music for many of his own films, including Million Dollar Baby and Mystic River, blending his passion for storytelling with a deep emotional soundscape. His music reveals a quieter, more introspective side that contrasts the tough characters he often portrays on screen. Additionally, Eastwood has built a successful business empire. He owns the Mission Ranch Hotel in Carmel and several restaurants, and he's been a major player in real estate development in California. His investments are guided by the same principles he applies to his films: independence, precision, and purpose. This multidimensional legacy proves that Clint Eastwood is not just a filmmaker. He's a cultural force, a community leader, and a man who constantly reinvents himself. Clint Eastwood's complex family life. Clint Eastwood's personal life has always been as fascinating, and sometimes as mysterious, as the characters he portrays. Despite his stoic public persona, Eastwood has led a dynamic romantic life that spans decades and multiple relationships. He has been married only twice, but has fathered at least 8 children with 6 different women, a fact that only came to light gradually over the years. His first and most famous marriage was to Maggie Johnson in 1953. Though they separated in the late 1970s and divorced in 1984, Maggie remained an important figure in Eastwood's life as the mother of 2 of his children. Later, he had long-term relationships with actress Sandra Locke, flight attendant Jaslyn Reeves, and others, each of whom bore him children, often outside the media spotlight. In 1996, Eastwood married news anchor Dina Ruiz, and their union brought a brief period of domestic stability. Together, they had 1 daughter, Morgan, and were often seen at public events. However, the marriage ended in divorce in 2014, with Ruiz later citing emotional distance and incompatibility. Despite the unconventional structure of his family, Eastwood remains close to most of his children. He's been photographed proudly attending red carpets and film premieres alongside them, especially his sons, Scott and Kyle Eastwood, both of whom followed their father into the entertainment industry. Clint Eastwood's family life, though marked by twists and complexities, reveals a man deeply connected to his children and capable of loyalty and love, even if not always in traditional forms. Clint Eastwood's alleged funeral ban list sparks shock. In the final chapters of his life, Clint Eastwood, always known for being a fiercely private man, reportedly made one of his boldest personal decisions yet, creating a list of people who would be banned from attending his funeral. While Eastwood has not publicly confirmed such a list, rumors swirling within Hollywood and among close insiders suggest that the veteran actor-director, now in his twilight years, wanted his farewell to be free of hypocrisy, unresolved grudges, and superficial Hollywood pretenders. Among those allegedly blacklisted are former romantic partners with whom Eastwood had acrimonious splits. It's rumored that Sandra Locke, despite their high-profile relationship, was not welcomed due to their bitter legal battles and public fallout, even though she passed away in 2018, years before the rumors of the list surfaced. Additionally, some estranged acquaintances from the industry who Eastwood believed had betrayed his trust or used his name for their own gain were reportedly excluded. The list, according to unnamed sources, wasn't rooted in malice, but rather a desire for peace. Eastwood, known for his no-nonsense attitude, is said to have valued authenticity over fanfare. He reportedly wanted only those who genuinely loved and respected him to be present during his final farewell. No red carpet, no drama, just sincerity. Family members, especially his children, are believed to have supported this decision. Some of them even helped shape the list, ensuring that Eastwood's wish for a dignified and personal goodbye would be honored. Though the list remains unofficial and unconfirmed, it reflects the essence of a man who lived life on his own terms and intended to leave it that way as well. Why Clint Eastwood created a funeral ban list throughout his life. Clint Eastwood built a reputation as a man of principle, stoic, honest, and unwilling to tolerate pretense. So, when rumors of a funeral ban list emerged, many close to the Hollywood icon weren't surprised. According to insiders, the motivation behind the list was not vindictive but deeply personal. Eastwood reportedly wanted his final moments to be surrounded only by truth, loyalty, and peace, not the artificial showbiz circles that often clouded his fame. Sources suggest that Eastwood's decision stemmed from years of emotional scars, betrayals in business, lawsuits with former partners, and friendships that fractured under pressure. He allegedly viewed his funeral not as a public spectacle, but as a sacred closing chapter. To him, inviting those who had harmed, manipulated, or abandoned him would feel like dishonoring his final goodbye. One of the most painful chapters was his legal battle with Sandra Locke, though she passed away before him. That experience shaped Eastwood's perspective on trust. It wasn't about holding grudges, but about protecting his dignity in death. He wanted to avoid fake tears and hollow speeches. He had seen enough of those in Hollywood. Additionally, Eastwood valued privacy and loyalty above all else. He reportedly believed that allowing certain individuals to attend simply because they were famous or once connected to him would invite media frenzy, drama, and exploitation. His children supported his decision, saying it reflected their father's lifelong commitment to authenticity. To Eastwood, the guest list wasn't about exclusion. It was about clarity. It was his way of saying, If you weren't there when I needed you in life, you don't get to be there in death. The Last Ride, the peaceful passing of Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor, director, and cultural icon, passed away peacefully at the age of 94 in his beloved Carmel, California. Known for his quiet strength and stoic presence on screen, Eastwood's final days reflected the same calm resolve that defined his life. Surrounded by family and close friends, he took his last breath in the comfort of his own home. No hospital beds, no flashing lights, just the sound of the ocean in the distance and the legacy of a life fully lived. According to sources close to the family, Eastwood had been in declining health for some time, but chose to keep it private. He had always preferred solitude over spectacle, and in his final weeks, he requested no media coverage, no dramatic farewells, and certainly no public spectacle. "Let me go the same way I lived, on my terms," he reportedly told his children. In those last days, Clint found solace in the presence of his children, especially his youngest, Morgan, and his longtime partner, Christina Sandera. They recall quiet conversations, long silences filled with meaning, and moments of laughter despite the looming goodbye. He often sat outside, staring at the horizon, sipping his favorite coffee, with his dogs at his feet, a cowboy till the end. When the news broke, tributes poured in from every corner of the world. Presidents, fellow actors, directors, and fans remembered him not only as a cinematic legend, but also as a man of integrity, grit, and authenticity. Yet, true to his spirit, Clint Eastwood's farewell was private. No public funeral, no red carpet of remembrance. Because, in the end, Eastwood never needed a spotlight to prove his greatness. He was never about noise. He was about depth, a legacy of grit and grace, Clint Eastwood's enduring principles. Clint Eastwood didn't just leave behind a catalog of unforgettable films. He left behind a legacy defined by unshakable principles. Until his final days, he stood firm in his belief in personal responsibility, hard work, and quiet integrity. He never chased fame. He earned it by staying true to himself, both in front of the camera and behind it. Even in his final years, Clint refused to compromise his values. He lived simply, shunned the excesses of Hollywood, and remained grounded in the same small coastal town where he once served as mayor. He was a man who believed in action over words, in character over celebrity. His children and colleagues often said, "Clint didn't teach with speeches, he taught by example." That example now lives on not only through his work, but in the lives he touched, the people he inspired, and the artists who still look to him as a model of creative independence and resilience. What Clint Eastwood taught us all, lessons from a quiet legend. Throughout his decades-long career, Clint Eastwood taught us far more than how to act, direct, or deliver a one-liner with grit. His life itself became a masterclass in resilience, quiet strength, and unapologetic authenticity. From his humble beginnings to becoming one of Hollywood's most respected icons, Clint Eastwood lived by a set of lessons that still resonate deeply today. Stay true to yourself. One of Clint's greatest strengths was his refusal to conform. He never let trends or outside expectations dictate his path. Whether choosing roles or directing films, he followed his instincts. This unwavering self-belief allowed him to transition from actor to director, to composer, to mayor, proving that reinvention is possible without losing your essence. Speak less, do more. Clint wasn't one for grand speeches or emotional outbursts. He let his work speak. He reminded us that action, not noise, builds legacy. This philosophy shaped not just his screen characters, but his personal life. He valued dignity, humility, and the power of silence in a world addicted to attention. Aging with grace. Unlike many in Hollywood, Clint embraced aging. He never hid his wrinkles or slowed down creatively. In fact, some of his most powerful works came in his later years. Unforgiven, Gran Torino, and Million Dollar Baby weren't just movies. They were reflections of a man at peace with time, showing us that relevance isn't tied to youth. Value privacy, not publicity, despite his fame. Clint lived a remarkably private life. He rarely gave interviews, stayed away from tabloids, and kept his personal matters quiet. In doing so, he taught a generation that fame and integrity don't have to be mutually exclusive. Stand for something. Clint had his principles, whether political, creative, or personal, and stood by them even when unpopular. He believed in self-reliance, simplicity, and authenticity. He was not easily swayed, and this earned him both respect and criticism. But above all, it made him real. In the end, the most powerful lesson Clint Eastwood gave us is this: you don't have to shout to be heard, and you don't have to follow the crowd to make an impact. Sometimes, the most enduring legacy is built by walking alone, quietly, with purpose.